All right, guys, so let's get into session 3 here. By now, you've kind of learned about the feast approach to nutrition, and then a little bit more about macros and body composition and calories and things like that. So now we kind of want to see if we can help you with some of the intermediate steps and look at meal planning and meal prepping. This would switch. There we go. So within CrossFit, there's the CrossFit pyramid here. Nutrition is at the bottom, right? It's the base of the pyramid. A lot of the times when people first start their health and conditioning, fitness routines, they want to think that all the time that they spend in the gym is what's most important, right? And from what we remember from session 2 was about 5% of your daily activity is actually burned in the gym, right? Of the calories burned throughout your day. 5% of that happens within that hour-long class, okay? We want to really, again, encourage you to focus on the nutrition side as that being your base. How many of you guys cook at home? Okay, I know I can't see your hands right now, but ideally this is one of our healthy habits. We love to see people cooking at home. What it does is it actually allows you to control your ingredients, maybe allows you to control calories a little bit more. There's not a lot of processed oils being used at home, hopefully. As you can see, this very happy couple here is enjoying a glass of wine while they cook together. Okay, there is something very, very special about spending time with a loved one or with kids or anything like that while cooking at home. And look, they're even eating pasta, which is not a bad carbohydrate. Fantastic. Okay. A lot of times we have the excuses of why we don't cook at home. I don't have the time, or it's too hard. I don't know how to cook. I don't know what to cook. Okay. A lot of excuses. These aren't necessarily invalid excuses, but they're things that we can control, and they're things that we can definitely get ahead of. We can provide solutions to these things, such as it's actually pretty simple. Okay, you save a lot of time by cooking your food at home. It doesn't have to be intuitive, but we're willing to bet that you do have some general cooking intuition, and we actually want you to be fearless when it comes to this. It's not unlike starting a new routine in anything, such as health and fitness. When you first start something, it's going to be a little bit awkward, but at the end of the day, these are skills that you can learn. So we're going to go over what a healthy plate looks like, a couple tools, tips, and tricks for meal planning, looking at the grocery store, things like how to read a nutrition label, talking about MyFitnessPal if you're someone who chooses to track, and some easy sample meals that you can start right away. So healthy plate, this is taken from Precision Nutrition. We love that company. First things I want you to notice there, bunch of colors, right? We talked about this as one of our healthy habits. Variety of colors, variety of produce. You see that protein and vegetables are dominating the plate. At least 3/4 of that plate is meat and veggies. We've also got fats in there. We've also got some starchier carbs here. So vegetables are actually carbohydrates as well, but we're not scared of things like fruits, potatoes, rice, pastas, beans, things like that as well, right? As an athlete, you are burning carbohydrates as fuel, so we want to make sure we're restoring and refueling with those healthy carbs. In terms of measuring portion sizes, if you're not one that's wanting to weigh and measure using a kitchen scale, really easy thing to look at here is protein should be about the palm, about 3 to 4 ounces is going to be about the size of your palm from the base of your fingers to your wrist. Okay, 1 cup of vegetables is typically just a closed fist. A cup of carbohydrates would be, again, like a cupped hand. You could also think about that as being just a closed fist. And when we're talking about fats, this is usually the one that surprises most people here. About the size of your thumb is what we were looking at for a serving of fat. Okay, so when you're using something like olive oil to cook, again, size of your thumb there, that's about a tablespoon. That can be pretty potent. That can have 14 grams of fats in it, and it can be somewhere in the realm of 200 calories. So definitely want to watch the fats when we're doing this. That goes for things like cheese, peanut butter, avocado, things like that. Okay. Meal Matrix. So this is one resource that we've made here at Beyond the Box Nutrition, and obviously shared this with Feast. When you're creating a meal, it's super simple, just to pick, from one macronutrient group at a time. So choose a protein that you like, choose a vegetable that you like, choose a carbohydrate that you like, and then choose a fat that you like. You've got 4 ingredients. It's super easy to make a meal out of that. Okay, so just going off the top there, if you want to have chicken breast and you want to have some vegetables, you're going to have a sweet potato, and you're going to use avocado with your chicken, or you're going to use an avocado oil to cook the Brussels sprouts in. Okay, simple, effective, super healthy meals right there. You can actually use this list if you want, or create a list of your own of foods that you actually do like. Like we said, doesn't have to be complicated, okay? Shrimp, broccoli, rice, olive oil. You got yourself a meal, okay? Make a little saute. Whether or not you know how to do that, we'll get to, but super easy, super delicious. Again, you've got some colors going on in there. Really, really good for you. Obviously we want food to be flavorful. It shouldn't have to be bland all the time. When people think about eating chicken and broccoli, it doesn't really excite the palate too much, but absolutely have the right to use some sauces and some spices, things like that. Just watch your portion sizes again, right? Dousing everything in a ranch dressing, probably not going to be that great for you, but there's many different options these days. Yes, these do come in bottles, and yes, they are a little bit more processed, but again, in the amounts that you're going to be having these things, not that terrible for you. Cooking techniques. So as you can see here, we've got at least, 16, 12 different ways of cooking. Experiment. Don't be afraid to try these things out. I have learned a lot in the kitchen this past year, and if you're not one to experiment all that often, grabbing a tool such as an Instant Pot or an air fryer, or really just kind of learning how to use your oven appropriately, okay? It's difficult to mess some of these things up if you're paying attention, right? Usually it's when we're not paying attention when we're cooking that we end up burning stuff. So, and usually that's because we're on our phones. So put the phones down, pay attention to the cooking, enjoy the process, and just, like we said, experiment with these things. Here's a couple cool tips for meal planning and meal prep. 4 easy steps. These are from Coach Terry Hartman, who is wonderful. So here we go. Look at your week. If you've got kids, if you're planning things around different schedules, obviously it's, kind of seeing, hey, on Wednesday, I've got a little bit more time here. Maybe I'm going to try to knock out 2 different meals on Wednesday that we can have on Thursday and Friday when the schedule gets a little bit more busy, right? Take some time, take 2 to 3 minutes to plan ahead, look at your schedule, figure out how to prioritize some meal planning in there. Again, we're not looking at spending more than 2 hours in the kitchen. If you can make a lasagna that's going to last you 2 days, awesome, right? If you can make a bunch of rice, if you can cook a bunch of chicken and have some vegetables chopped and ready to go, that's going to help you later down the line too, okay? Also spend some time looking through the internet. I mean, Google, as we all know, is a wonderful tool. If you put any type of food in and search for a recipe, you're going to find somebody that's, has made your favorite food healthy in some way, okay? Again, we talked about leftovers. Batch cooking is huge for people. Get some good glassware that you can store your food in the fridge for a couple days, and don't be afraid to pick things that you like to eat. We are, again, not in the restrictive camp. You should be able to find, if you like pizza, there are many different variations of pizza that you can make. It doesn't always have to be with a cauliflower crust, but there's a ton of different options that you can create at home, okay? One tip that we like is to challenge yourself to try a new recipe every week. You might not hit a home run every week, but at least you're going to kind of increase your knowledge here. It's no different than trying a new movement in the gym, right? Like, you might not be a good squatter right now, but if you keep trying a very different or varying degrees of squatting, you're going to get better at it. Create your shopping lists. This one's huge. A lot of the times we just go to the grocery store, and what happens is we get turned on autopilot. You just grab the same things that you're used to grabbing all the time, right? And you end up coming home with the same foods, and you're going to be bored, okay? So get out those recipes. Find 1 or 2 recipes that you actually want to create this week. Go with a specific list, okay? And get it done. There's many different apps that you can use for this now. One thing that we really like to preach is that you should be going to the grocery store multiple times a week, okay? The grocery store is not something that is a once every 2 weeks experience. That probably means that you're eating out way more often than you need to be if you're going that infrequently. So if it's go to the grocery store for 1 recipe, do it, okay? They're not that far away. Doesn't take that much time if you're organized. And then setting aside 1 to 2 hours of your day that you can batch cook, and maybe that's only 2 to 3 times per week that you're actually doing this, okay? Again, that doesn't have to be complicated. 3 ingredients, 4 ingredient, 5 ingredient max meals. That's all we really need. Here's just a couple of examples of the different apps that Coach Terry uses and recommends. You can actually share these apps. Like if you have a joint household where, she's obviously got her husband on here. If she needs him to pick up something that she's trying to make for dinner, that's pretty awesome. Batch cook. Batch cook proteins, batch cook your grains, okay? That is anything from rice to oatmeal to quinoa to potatoes to sweet potatoes. Freeze your meat in marinades. That's super smart too. Marinades obviously get better the longer that they're in there. Don't be afraid to chop up some extra vegetables. If you have chopped up extra vegetables just hanging out in your fridge, you're more likely to eat them, right? You're more likely to grab a handful while you're cooking, snack on those. And like we talked about, don't be afraid to use a meal planning sheet. We'll talk a little bit here about tools and equipment. Having your friends and family help you out. Look how much fun these guys are having. Don't be overly ambitious to start. Stay in your lane. We're not going to have anybody flambeing or, making any, pastries like you would see on the British Bake Off or anything like that. Stay in your lane. Pick something that you can comfortable with. Plan it out and just start practicing. Okay, here's a great example of a sheet you can actually download from the internet. This one looks like it's coming from Sweet Peas. Super simple. If you're somebody that needs that little bit of organization to have this template, throw it in there, put it in your phone, go to the store. A couple of things here that are helpful for the kitchen. We really do love food scales, especially if you're somebody that wants to kind of dial in your macronutrient ratios. Super helpful just to learn portion sizes as well. What does 6 ounces of cooked chicken breast, what does that actually look like, right? When you can weigh it out. Same thing with, weighing out things like nuts or your oils. You can actually put, a measuring cup on the scale and see what a serving size of olive oil actually looks like. Sometimes we're a little bit too indulgent with those, or, using a stick of butter when we maybe only need to use a thumb size of butter, right? Storage containers, we love anything that's glassware, just to kind of avoid the BPA, and very good for shelf life as well. Sorry, like they last a long time, durability. Good set of kitchen knives, super helpful. You probably only need 1 to 2. That's a good area to actually spend a little bit more money. Cast iron pan, really, really helpful. Less cleaning with the cast iron pan. And actually, when you cook in a cast iron pan, you get a good amount of iron, which is super beneficial. Tongs are really helpful, flipping over your chicken while you're using, where you're cooking it, batch cooking. A nice baking pan, good pot, and then obviously some good cutting boards too. Simple to start. Grocery shopping, when we're looking at where we want to spend our time when we're in a grocery store, so whether it's Whole Foods, Mariano's, wherever you want to go, generally, the old adage of stay to the outsides, right? That's where the produce is. That's where we're going to find things like the butcher shop, all the meats, all that fun stuff, fruits and vegetables, like we already mentioned. All that's going to be on the outside. You're going to find a lot of the fresh ingredients on the outside. If we start spending too much time in the middle of the aisles there, that's where everything is boxed and bottled and processed. And again, those things aren't necessarily bad. We just want to make sure that those are kind of the 20% and the garnish variety of our diet. We really do want stuff that should go bad in a couple days, right? Healthy food, whole, unprocessed. Whoops. Reading nutrition labels. Again, really cool for looking at the awareness piece of all this. We love nutrition labels because it can tell you exactly what you're going to get in terms of, protein, carbs, and fats, and how much of something you should be eating, right? So really important here. You can look at each of these arrows individually. The ones that I would highlight are definitely how many servings are in a container, right? Sometimes we get a bag of chips and we're like, oh, I just eat the whole thing, when really the nutrition information is providing 290 calories per serving. But, if you eat an entire bag, that you have to multiply by 5, which then severely increases our calorie intake. And I know a lot of us have been surprised by this. Most companies nowadays, whether it's, drinking bottles or, processed things, bags of things, it's usually 2 servings per product. So definitely watch that out. Keeping an eye on things like carbs, proteins, fats, and the ingredient lists as well. MyFitnessPal, really helpful tool if you do want to do more of this stuff and really learn about what's going on with the food that you're eating. We love foods with a barcode scanner. It's super, super easy to do that. Even things like your fruit, and it has a little sticker on it, it will have a barcode that you can scan. Done it before, super simple. Things like bag salad, anything like that will have a barcode scanner. Obviously, things with boxes and bottles and labels will have barcode scanners as well. This is, again, probably for a little bit more advanced people that have been doing nutrition work for a while and are really looking to kind of dig into a little bit more of the nitty-gritty in terms of nutrition. But it's super helpful for adding things like recipes and creating your own meals, things like that. There's a free version of MyFitnessPal that is definitely all you need. Here's a couple of Terry's, easy to prep meal ideas. Again, if you're someone who doesn't like to eat meat, we've got a couple options here, including tofu, zoodles, which is another sneaky way to add in some vegetables if you're not one that loves to just chop down on some raw broccoli. You can, get creative in the kitchen and grab a noodle creator and, use some things like zucchini and squash and different methods like that. But yeah, tons of different options here, especially for breakfast. We've got a lot of these recipes available. If you want any of them, just shoot us an email. We'll be happy to provide a lot of that. And then again, here's some really good ways to kind of just make sure you've always got protein prepped in the freezer. So that's the end of our presentation. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Sheena at beyondtheboxnutrition.com or Terry, who actually created this awesome slide in the first place, or this awesome presentation. So Terri at beyondtheboxnutrition.com, or you'll see Terry coaching classes at Feast as well. So thanks for playing along.